Good afternoon, mayors, business council members, and guests. Welcome to the third and final installment of Get to Know Your AAMA, an orientation series for current and new member and business council members. This series is designed to provide a deeper dive into the world of AAMA and the amazing benefits that are part of your membership. Our first session introduced AAMA staff and consultants, along with providing best practices for media and social media engagement, and toolkit resources for our consultants, Mercury and the design group.
Can we turn
The
people
second
on?
session featured an amazing policy consultant, Ice Miller, and our EDF fellow, Stacey Fujier. In that session, mayors were provided valuable information on the latest grant opportunities, the policy consulting benefits through AAMA membership, and a preview into the quickly approaching application process for the Nutrition Access Affordability and Education Grant Program provided by the American Beverage Foundation for a Healthy America. This session, I'm excited to spend time with our current president, Mayor Stephen Reed from the great city of Montgomery, Alabama, in a fireside chat on AAMA's goals and priorities for his tenure. Please help me welcome AAMA President, Mayor Stephen Reed. Mayor Reed, I think you're on mute.
Okay, how is this?
Perfect.
Okay, my apologies. I thought I had that taken care of, but no, just want to say good afternoon to everyone. I want to thank you, Phyllis. I'm excited to spend this time with you and members of our business council to discuss AAMA, what we're looking forward toward the future of the organization. And with that in mind, AAMA is 10 years old. What can you say has been, the greatest accomplishment? If there's more than one, list that in these last 10 years.
So while I only have been here 3 of the 10, I can highlight some of the things that have been major accomplishments over those few years. So one, we developed a new business council sponsorship level. And in that process, we now have 7 business council members that are at the top level, and actually 2 that exceed that top level. So those 2 are Amazon and Wells Fargo. So that was an amazing task. And we've seen at least a 50% increase in our membership base because there's been a movement of Black mayors actually not only winning their race, but coming to AAMA and joining for the collaboration. And approximately 60% increase in our fundraising on the development side. We've also created new partnerships, which I am always excited about. As you know, the Clinton Global Initiative is now a partner with us. The Fund 2 Foundation, which does Black maternal health work, is a new partner with us. When we all vote, we do our voting rights piece with them. And the Gates Foundation has given us about $3 million now for the next 3 years. And then the Bloomberg Foundation. We created our new website with all the bells and whistles to help mayors and business council members be better able to navigate through AAMA. And then our financial investment, we've made significant financial investments over the last few years since I've been here. And then one of our claims to fame is Emily, which is our Economic Mobility Leadership Institute, where mayors from majority cities, where we have a significant Black population, actually go through a leadership institute on creating Black generational wealth, but be it through home ownership, heirs property, wills and trusts, student loan debt, insurance, and we leverage our business partners to have those conversations with us on how do we engage our mayors and their constituents in building Black wealth. And last but not least, our international presence. For the first time, AAMA actually attends climate conferences like COP or INC, where we put mayors on panels to actually participate in the process and add their institutional knowledge that they bring to the table. So it has been a great year. And most significant is the investment in our young people. Our interns and our future fellows program is amazing. We've seen fellows leave, go, and be White House interns. And from there, now we have two that just got political appointments. One is going to the White House, the other one's going to Department of Commerce. And last but not least, our American Beverage Association grant, where we give over $600,000 in nutrition grants. So those are just some of the highlights that I have seen since I have been here for at least the last 3 years.
Great, great. So, when we think about this as AAMA being the only organization exclusively representing African American mayors, what makes AAMA different from other organizations?
So to me, it is the intimacy of the organization. A lot of the organizations have thousands of members. So you don't get to know the mayors and you don't get to know the business council members. And so this is a lot more intimate organization where we have like more hands-on kind of experience, like you actually know people by name. I like the fact that the mayors actually build their own, I call it fraternities and sororities within the organization. And
that's not based on Greek affiliation. So let them know that that's usually, it may be kind of issue related, geographic, all these other things, but it's not in that sense. But I just want everybody to know what you mean on that.
Yes, yes. And so they build their own chats and that kind of thing. And so it becomes important because it creates this intimate environment and safe environment where you feel comfortable, like really getting to know each other.
That's great. And, in over, 2 decades of experience working with members of Congress, as well as mayors, to transform policy to action, what do you see as the greatest need for mayors at this time?
So, from a legislative point, I know they give technical assistance, but I would like to figure out how we can give, especially medium and small cities, the ability to actually leverage grant writers. There are so few grant writers out there based on the amount of money that's rolling out. And so a lot of our cities don't have the capacity to actually fill out the grant form. If they get the grant, to be able to track it and their projects. And so build some type of platform where they can call on or access these grant writers would probably be my greatest sweet spot that I would like to see. The other one is something that you're probably going to bring up a little bit later, is just that collaboration with members on the Hill. Just building, I always say, if we can just play safely in the sandbox together, that would be amazing. And then I know we talked to the administration about this before, but leveraging the funds where the funds go straight to the cities instead of being pass-through fund. Many of our cities in that pass-through fund process actually don't end up with their funding. So that is a real issue for us. So if we could make decisions like that and help push that kind of policy and legislation forward, that would be where I would see it. Now, I know nobody came to listen to Phyllis, so I'm going to switch the conversation and start asking Mayor Reed some questions. And so, Mayor Reed, what are your priorities for your tenure, and how can AAMA accomplish all of that you want to do in that year?
Yeah, the year started off great. We had a great conference, obviously, and it's been a fast first, 45 to 60 days now. Our priorities are all around public safety, infrastructure, technology, building wealth, certainly. And then the big piece that's probably a little bit different, healthcare, and then the other piece probably a little bit different is the foreign direct investment. I really believe that our cities, in particular in today's economic climate, that we're going to have to build international relationships to foster true investment. And I kind of came into that because I had to sit down with former Atlanta Mayor and UN Ambassador Andrew Young, who told me some of the challenges that he ran into after he succeeded Maynard Jackson. And they ran into a hostile state legislature, ran into a hostile federal government. And so they had to reach across the waters, essentially, for that investment. And that's something that I think is very, very important for us, in particular for those of us that have to deal with more so conservative legislatures, which may not be as willing to collaborate as those that are in our fellow mayors that are in those blue states. I tell them all the time, they got it on easy street. They just don't know it. So, when you think about obviously public safety and policing, utilizing best practices for community violence intervention, when you think about how we grow small and mid-sized minority Black-owned businesses, what levers do we utilize for that through procurement? How do we work with those that are fund managers to accelerate their growth? And then from the infrastructure space, whether that is high-speed internet, whether that's obviously roads and bridges, or whether that's even our water infrastructure, how do we leverage this unprecedented amount of federal dollars in cooperation that's out there? And then obviously we look at the healthcare standpoint of Black maternal health and what Mayor Sean Patterson Howard was focusing on last year, continuing that along with other health disparities that we know so often disproportionately impact many of our Black and brown residents. So those are the priorities that I have. And I think, with AAMA, the staff, the exposure, the experience, and the collective brain power of our mayors helps us. And if we can utilize the committee structure as an organization to really funnel ideas and to be more active in pushing out initiatives and resolutions, I think that will help other mayors, and I believe it will help the association overall to see the value that we have in our mayors from cities large, mid, and small all across the country.
So I know we talked about something just playfully earlier when I said mayors create these small sororities and fraternities inside the organization. But can you kind of give us an overview of how is a new mayor, if I'm a new mayor and I come into the organization, how do I become part of the group where I feel like, I know people's names, they know my name. So when you came into the organization, how did you fit in, or did you already know many of the mayors that when you won your first election?
Yeah, no, I didn't. I just kind of introduced myself to a lot of mayors. Again, it didn't matter, what size the city was and that sort of thing. And you'll find that there's really a brotherhood and sisterhood, like Phyllis mentioned, that exists. So whether it's, where you went to school or where your folks are from, or who knows who, you kind of find that space. And then some people have, certain issues. It may be affordable housing. And we're like, hey, here's the expert on that. Here's the person that's been leading on this piece, or, maybe somebody that's focusing on economic growth, or someone that's focusing on water issues or public safety, those things that we've been talking about. And, I think with AAMA, and I certainly will volunteer myself, we can connect you to whether it's, based on, hey, I'm a new mayor, I kind of want to have this cohort of mayors that are going through it, with me at the same time, or whether it is those mayors that have a little bit more experience, that we can connect you with. So I think, both naturally, in terms of all of us as mayors are outgoing people to some extent, just introducing yourself, saying hi, hello, I'm in Indiana, I'm in Louisiana, I'm in Missouri, I'm in California, wherever it may be, or I'm in Carolinas, that's fine. We'll find, folks to connect you, or somebody may say, hey, my husband went to school here, my wife went here, my daughter went here. Oh, well, we got to connect y'all as, alums, across the spectrum. So there's always a thread to connect mayors. And the great thing about AAMA is that truly, it doesn't matter the size of the city. We all deal with the same issues. It really is just a matter of scale. And so even that big city mayor or that small city mayor have things in common. That mid-sized city mayor, that small city mayor are going to have some things in common. And we kind of forge communication and collaboration from that. And then finally, I guess just structurally, we certainly want those mayors who have a passion or have a priority in one of the committee areas to offer themselves to serve on that committee, because that's another way that you kind of get to learn who's focused on what, and you get to know other mayors and how they navigate, whether it be local, state, or federal funding, and or other partnerships and ideas to address those issues that we all have at home.
You're so right. And just participating in some of the off-cycle summits we have, like the one coming up in New York, we're going to do on AI and public safety. That'll be an opportunity. The one we did in February was on affordable housing and homelessness in LA. And you're so correct that many of the cities have the exact same problems. It's just scale and escalated. When you see homelessness in LA, it's 20,000 people in a few blocks that are living in tents. So it's just a different look, but it's the same problem. And so as a Black mayor, what unique challenges do you face? And in turn, what unique opportunities do you face in that? And how do you balance both as a mayor?
First, let me say this. Now, almost 4.5 years in, I think I'm still struggling for the balance of most of this stuff. So I don't want any of our new mayors to think that, you come in and you get it right away. And I've heard mayors who served, like Michael Coleman, one of our founders, served, I think 20 years, 16 or 20 years, I think in Columbus, said, you never really find the balance. You're always searching for that balance, in your work life, spiritual space and all of that. And it is challenging. But, for me, what challenges I have found in being a Black mayor, in my case, I was the first Black mayor of Montgomery, Alabama. It's different for a lot of people who think they're ready for the change that comes along with that to actually be ready. And sometimes that includes people in your own community. Sometimes that includes people in the broader community as well. The second thing is, you have to be the mayor for everyone, even with that perspective that I just gave. And so sometimes reaching across, the aisle, if you will, of various circles takes a little bit more of a challenge, takes a little bit more effort, if you will, but it's something that I think we're all called to do and something that we're capable of doing. And then I think, from the standpoint of a Black mayor, we aren't given usually the bandwidth that other mayors are given of other races. And so it is a challenge. It is that living up to, the founders of this organization and so many others that came before them, the standard that they set. That's, certainly a challenge to try to let people know that we're not magicians. We're not miracle workers. We have to get in and do the work like everyone else does. But it's something that comes along with it. And you have to consistently try to over communicate what it is you're trying to do, what your priorities are, and why they are. For so many of us, if we're representing majority Black cities and brown communities, it's, hey, often, not all the time, but often, this group hasn't felt like their voices have been heard. This group hasn't felt like their priorities have been addressed. If you're one who's, leading a community that's not then majority Black or brown, then sometimes you have to kind of make that adjustment to show those residents that obviously you're going to look at things objectively. Obviously, you're not going to quote unquote favor one group, or the others. I use air quotes here. But you have to lead, and leadership is something that's universal. I just think that when it comes to Black mayors, it's viewed through a different lens, as are most things in our nation. Now, opportunities, I will say this. I think there are tremendous opportunities for us as Black mayors because I've come into contact with so many business, philanthropic, and government leaders who know the challenges that we face, who know that quite often our communities have done more with less and they want to help. That's why when Phyllis mentioned the grant writing part, I do think that is something very key. I know Jared Lodeholt and Ice Miller have mentioned that as well. Those things are very key because there are opportunities out there to partner and to bring these public-private partnerships together. And regardless of what space in the country you reside, there are folks looking for and to assist and to partner with Black mayors. And that, to me, is just the biggest opportunity that we have, is just the interest and the sincere, effort by so many to bring African American Mayors Association to the table in circles, because they realize the work we're doing as CEOs of our cities, and they know that they can most directly impact people at the local level. It's not through the U.S. Senate, it's not through the U.S. House of Representatives, it is at the local level. So there's no shortage of corporate, philanthropic, and private partners that are out there that I think are willing to work with us. And it's up to us to continue to elevate the association, to continue to press our message in different spaces, and to provide that substance that comes with the style that all of us have as African American mayors. And so, again, I mentioned international cooperation. There's that has been expressed to me already in this role, but there's certainly a lot of domestic involvement that is there, people that want to help in various ways, from fund managers, again, all the way through philanthropic organizations and other nonprofits that want to partner with African American mayors because of the communities that we represent. We just have to make sure we do our part, and I'm sure all of our members will do just that.
Mentioned something earlier, I think you said it twice, like Black mayors are held at a different standard. Can you express in your personal opinion why you think that is? And I carry a purse that says Black mayors matter. And so with that in mind, why do Black mayors matter?
Well, I think Black mayors matter because we bring a perspective of our communities that's very unique to the C-suite. And in most cases, most of us don't have a lot of C-suite executives in our business community in our hometowns. So we are that person we are those persons that are balancing the P&L statements. We are putting out the fires, dealing with the first responders, dealing with the needs of the communities at a level that I think for many of us, brings a sense of history, brings a sense of commitment, and a sense of dedication because of the experience and the professional and personal backgrounds that we have, which is usually a little different than some of our white and maybe Latino and Asian American counterparts. So for us, it can be different. And so because we have to balance that professionally with what socially and culturally are higher expectations, even among our own voting blocks, our own residents, our own base of voters, quite often it's different because there are people who expect us to know and to lead in a different way than maybe they do someone that doesn't look like us. And the flip side of that is, we're held to a different standard because in particular in today's partisan and racially charged political environment and judicial environment and corporate environment, there's a sense of how are we going to lead in this time, now that we are in a position that we have not been in probably since really the 70s, mid to late 70s and 80s, with the number of Black mayors, in particular the city that we're leading. How are we going to lead, and what does the broader community think about our leadership? What does the broader philanthropic community and those that are watching us think? And I say this quite a bit here in Montgomery, Alabama. I said, a lot of us have to be CEOs. We also have to be pastors. We have to be social workers. We have to be historians. We have to be, archivists. We have to bring so much more to the table, sometimes to justify our decisions, sometimes to justify our priorities and platforms that some of our counterparts can just do because, hey, we think it's good policy, or this is what our residents want. Whereas for us, quite often we have to go several layers deep to really assure some in the broader community what our goals and objectives are. And then we also have to factor in that there are levels of government at the state and federal side who often want to reduce our power because we are in the position now. And I think that's the challenge that we have and why we are looked at differently and how we have to navigate things in a unique way that is, really only relevant to us.
You are so correct. I'm going to let Carlos open it up for questions to see if anyone on the call has a question. Feel free to raise your hand or put it in the chat, and we'll try to get your question answered. And so while we're waiting on that first question, Marie, how do you balance your mental health? Like, how do you keep it intact and not take it personal?
You gotta stay prayed up. I just came from the grocery store picking up some vegetables after my workout this morning. And gentlemen, I went in there, my baseball hat. I didn't look like I look now, which ain't the best, but baseball hat, workout shirt on. I thought I was gonna pop right in there and pop out. And the brother putting up the produce said, "Hey man, we praying for you. We praying for you in my house. We praying for you at our church. Hang in there. You're doing the right thing. You're doing great. We know what this is about, and we've been through it before. We're praying for you." That is true story today. As I picked up my red onions, tomatoes, and green beans, I can go down my little quick grocery list. But it is that we have to stay prayed up because, again, the spotlight on us, regardless of where we live, is just different. It is unique because that has been the Black experience in this country. And it continues to be that way. It just takes on now a greater profile because of the positions that we are now sitting in and the power that gives so many in our community who have felt left out, looked over, and left behind to do. So I say stay prayed up. Number two, I think you have to have a close circle of friends, family, and advisors to kind of bounce things off of. And then three, you have to be able to, get yourself away from the position, whatever it is you do, whether it is, whether you fish, whether you hunt, whether you like to, do something outdoors, whether it's exercise, yoga, whatever it may be, meditation, you have to do those things. And sometimes, look, it's just a 2-mile walk and you telling all the squirrels and birds and everything around you what you really want to say to your city council and what you really want to say to some people in your city. So the squirrels and the birds can hear it as long as the other folks can. Sometimes you just got to let it out. At least I do. So that's how I balance, my mental health. And, it has helped me, so far. And, I think having this brotherhood and sisterhood of other mayors that I can share my frustrations with and share my concerns and even my insecurities about an idea or about an issue. Like, am I really doing the right thing? Having that sounding board, even outside of that immediate familiar circle, to those of us in AAMA, has been tremendously helpful for my mental health.
So I'm sure by now, do we have any questions, Carlos?
No questions.
So by now, you've been president a few months, and I'm sure you're feeling the blunt of interviews, meetings, people calling, can we get in, all of those things. How are you handling that? Like, a lot of people want to be in leadership, but leadership comes with a cost, right? And so how do you balance Boulé, Omega Psi Phi, AAMA, mayor's duties, all of that?
That's a great question. I'm still trying to figure that out. I said earlier, I don't know if you ever get the balance. It's a little bit here, it's a little bit there. I think you have to prioritize, obviously your faith and your family. First, I don't always get them right. So I'm not gonna stand here again, tell the new mayors that I got it just right all the time. But you have to kind of keep them closely aligned, obviously, in what our responsibility is. And again, I think it was Ambassador Young who told me, that being in public office is hard, because you do have to share yourself and people expect you to share yourself, right? But you have to kind of know when to say, when to back off and say, I think we've kind of gone a little too far. We got to pull back a little bit, whether it's locally or even beyond. And again, from my standpoint, if I don't see it, my staff will say it. And then my staff doesn't say it, my family and friends will, certainly say it. But I think you have to be able to understand that one, if you're a new mayor, it doesn't happen in the first 6 months. It may not even happen in the first year. So give yourself that time. And as Shirley Franklin told me, they give you 4 years for a reason, So think about that. You got time to grow into, you got time to kind of pace yourself into that space. Those things are, very important. William Bell, former mayor of Birmingham, kind of said, something very similar to me is, make sure that, hey, if you do, this meeting this month, then, you might do another meeting, the next month. You may not be able to do every meeting every month because you're going to wear yourself out and you won't have that mental or physical health that you need. And, the thought has been, kind of pace it out a little bit and then make sure, again, even when your calendar is full, that if it's that, daughter or granddaughter's special event, you go, or if it's that son or, that other close friend is having a birthday celebration, even if you can't be there the whole time, just your presence for a little bit will go a long way. So just trying to find that balance certainly depends on the person and, what those asks may be. But just understanding for us, I think it's something that you're always trying to figure out. And so I've had people even as recently as last week say, well, the mayor hasn't been to see us. And so I, told my staff, all right, well, when was it? And I thought it was last quarter. They said, no, it was 6 months ago. So, all right, I got to go back and see them. The years gone by fast. So we're going to have to try to do those things. And I think all of us, come into those situations regardless of our position.
So one of the issues I have noticed in city government after doing 14 years in city government, I jokingly tell this story that the mayor that I served under, actually, when he got ready to hire me as his chief of staff, I had to honestly tell him, I didn't vote for you, right? And he was like, you didn't vote for me? It's like, no, I didn't vote for you. And so we laughed about it. But when we talk about municipal government as relates to HR, we are using a 1970s system of hiring, how we do staffing, work-life balance, everything from a hybrid work system. And so we even learned during COVID that city government wasn't set up to work remotely. How do you think city government is going to change? Like, what do we need to do to change, to turn the big ship, I guess I would say?
One of the things, Phyllis, we talked about was kind of, technology and AI and how that's impacting things. I think we all have to embrace that because it is here. We all have to embrace technology as we look to get our workforces younger. The new generation is different when it comes to coming into work every day. There was just a great article this week about why the 4-day work week is becoming more popular. I would recommend all of our mayors, take a look at that and maybe have that discussion just offline with, council members and members of your staff. I think that we're all going to have to reimagine what work looks like and how we incorporate remote work in order to get the type of production that we want from many of our employees. So, for us, I think that utilizing AI and ChatGPT are going to be very important tools for us to really dive into as AAMA member mayors. And I think looking at workplace trends is going to be important. And that's not to say that in this budget cycle, we're going to cut, 10% of the jobs and make them remote. That's not what I'm saying. But I think we have to have those conversations. I'm glad you mentioned the outdated policies because it's taken me 3 years to go through my state legislature to change from a personnel board here in Montgomery to an HR department. And I finally got it through after 3 sessions. Now, why it took me 3 sessions with city and county being for it, I have no idea. But in my case, I couldn't do it just by virtue of a swipe of the pen. I had to go to the legislature to get it approved. But to go to an HR system for us to be more efficient is important because we know that it will improve the operational efficiency and the production that our residents are looking for. Because residents aren't as patient as they were because we as a society are not as patient as we used to be. So when it comes to government, we have to look for those ways, to be more adaptive, and I think to be more effective in serving our residents. And that's going to mean changing workplace expectations, what those rules are, and then what the practices that we ultimately come up with so that we can get the best results for our residents and our neighbors.
Perfect, perfect. And so as we look to close, I don't see a question yet. You have a question?
Yes. So Mayor Yamikia Robinson asked, how can you keep the environment positive and communication strong with council members? I've tried and tried and tried, but nothing seems to work. It only happens with half of the council. I'm the first African-American female mayor of my hometown. I'm in my second year.
Wow, that's a great question. Listen, it's a question that I wrestle with too. So I want to, in all transparency, and my father was a 24-year member of our city council here. So growing up, I know the plight of a city councilman and have tried to, leverage that as well with understanding where they're coming from. But my father still thinks like a councilman. So I'll give you some advice he just told me as well, which was, you need to make sure you talk to the council members more. And he said, you got your staff, but talk to your council members more. And I'm looking at him like, man, this is almost what you just said, Mayor. This is what I've been doing, and just pick up the phone and talk to them more. Grab a cup of coffee, ask them what they need, make them feel important so that they feel, that you're not talking to them from a perspective of I'm the mayor, you're the council, but from the perspective of, hey, we're all here to serve this city together. And so I've started to try to do that. I actually had that conversation on Monday of this week with a couple of council members. So I think as human beings, we always have to recognize that regardless of our titles or our organizations, we're still dealing with people who have egos, people who have feelings, people who have thoughts and ideas, and people who have shortcomings, imperfections, like all of us. And I think, we have to continue to work to build the relationships, even if, with some they're strong, with others they may not be strong at all, but we have to continue that outreach. And I think as mayors, and those of us that have been elected at large, it's our responsibility. And believe me, when I am taking my walk in the morning or on a jog and trying to clear my head, and I'm having some real interesting thoughts about my council members, let me say it like that. It's hard to do. It is hard to do, but I think it's something that our residents expect us to do. And as leaders, we have to make sure we try to condition ourselves to continue to go through those exercises, even when we don't get the results that we want. And that's 4.5 years for me. And I'm sure there are mayors who have served 2 terms or more that probably can speak to that as well. So you still got time. You just been in it 2 years, so you still got time to warm up to them and for them to warm up to you.
Any more questions, Carlos?
No more questions. Mayor Robinson says thank you, and she will continue to try, and she's praying.
Listen, I think that's most of us. The council members want to be mayors, and some think they already are mayors, and think they're going to be the next mayor. So you always have to kind of factor that in too a little bit. But we're in the position now, and so we have to lead from that space. And I think it's just important for us, just kind of understand that. But again, it's not just you. We were just talking about that in Kansas City among some of the AAMA member mayors over this past weekend. So no, it's not just local, unfortunately.
I tell everybody, all your friends won't be councilmen, all councilmen won't be your friends. Those are my words to live by,
Great.
right? And so as we look to close out, what are your top 3 things that you need help with in Montgomery? Like, what are those 3 things? And because there are business council members on here too, and that you'd like to get accomplished this year, and you just need some help. Like, what is what does that lift look like?
Yeah, I think assistance with public safety and our community violence intervention efforts. And that probably means support for those nonprofits and for those organizations that are doing good work in our community to get that assistance, to be violence interrupters and to be trusted messengers. That is probably kind of the biggest place for us. I think the second thing is, even though I don't run our education system, we don't have a city city system, and we don't have a mayor appointed board like in some communities. We got to help our young people, and particularly in their reading, particularly in their education standards. We're still behind, particularly look at Black boys. Really concerned about that. Black girls are doing better. They need assistance too, but Black boys still losing traction in that middle school, right? In that 4th, 5th, 6th grade, 7th grade area. We're seeing that, and that's having a ripple effect into public safety, but also workforce. We have led the state the last 2.5 years in jobs announced and overall investment. My concern is, man, we go out here and do all the work for these high-paying advanced manufacturing jobs and other, knowledge-based economy jobs. Well, I would love for my residents, I love for my voters to get an opportunity at these jobs. That's why we're doing it. I mean, we take care of the region, but we don't want to see everybody coming in from outside and our folks can't get an opportunity. But they need that workforce training. They need that reskilling program. Those things are very, very important. And then finally, I would say small and mid-sized business support, technical support. How do we grow these businesses that quite often in my city in particular are in the service based sector? How do we help them grow from 1 to 3 to 4 employees to 7 to 10 employees? How do we get them there to really increase their sales by utilizing technology, something we talked about earlier, and by giving them the best accounting and financial support that's needed to scale that business? So those would be my top 3 areas. If I was asking the business council and anyone else that has ideas, that public safety, public education, and then growing those Black-owned businesses so that we too can create those millionaires that we talk about in business and create those next Black business titans that so many of us have read about and still talk about to this day. It's very, very important that we get them compliant so they can go after local, state, and federal contracts, and then certainly be in a position where maybe they can be in a joint venture or go after initiatives themselves that allow them to grow that business and accelerate their profits in a way that a lot of Black businesses, male or female owned, have a hard time doing.
No, it's funny that you talk about this whole education and reading piece. Harvard sent us a white paper that I'm still reading, but it's on climate. And it's a direct correlation between heat and learning in the classroom. And it made me realize, growing up in Little Rock, we all start our school year in August, which is the hottest time of the year. And so with that in mind, there's an even percentage of learning decrease based on the average heat. So if the average heat goes up 1 degree, learning goes down 1%. It goes up 2 degrees, learning goes down 2%. So just the switch of changing the school year from starting in August to right after Labor Day will actually increase learning in the classroom. And so there is a direct correlation with some of the struggles that our cities are going through and our education system, because a lot of our schools, I'm sure in Montgomery also, don't have air conditioning. So you're sitting kids in hot classrooms. So those are some of the things that we'll share with our mayors to make sure that they have those tools in place. So I just want to know if you have any closing remarks for the mayors and the business council and how they can get involved with AAMA.
I do, but I want to ask you one last question. I'm not going to let you off the hook that easy. And then I will make my comments very, very short and brief. How do we position AAMA to be more relevant, both politically and socially in today's environment? I want our members to hear that from the CEO.
So I think now that we represent 50% of the top 20 cities across the US. So we cannot be ignored anymore. Most people don't know we started off with Southern Conference of Black Mayors, then the US Conference of Black Mayors when we started to win large cities. Now we are all of those large cities. And so we have a voice at the table. We just have to use it. We can't be reactive anymore. We have to be proactive on some of the policies that are rolling down and coming out of legislation. We have to pay more attention on the policy side. And so we have to leverage our policy team. As you mentioned, Ice Miller Law Firm, which is led by Jared Lodeholt as our liaison, is a great example of informing us of what's coming down the pipe and sending it to us so that we can then have a voice. As you know, we send out support letters on things that we actually support. And then for the things that we don't, like you just signed the Black Farmers Bill on paying the Black farmers their money, right? That they're dutifully owed. And so I think it's literally about leveraging our voice in every arena, whether it's internationally. Now, on our podcast, we're about to start our podcast back up. And on our podcast, it's so funny. We just started last year and we have more viewership in Belgium than we have in the US. And so it's leveraging our voice on an international level. At the White House, we have great relationships and we can leverage it there. And then on Capitol Hill, but we literally have to inform our constituents because I think that a lot of times we miss in the boat on that. I will never forget being at Essence last year, and we had Andre Dickens, the mayor of Atlanta, answer the question about preemption. And most people, we just say the term and we walk off and we think our constituents know what it is. But Mayor Dickens did the best job. He said, preemption in my city is, I wanted to raise the average hourly rate to $17 and something cents an hour. And my state legislator said no. So I could only raise the hourly rate of the city employees that were actually employed by the city. So that means everybody else in Atlanta, if they make minimum wage, they only make $7 and something an hour. That's a $10 an hour difference. Everybody got it. He said, preemption is when I want to do something and I can't. And so people get it. So I think sometimes it's just explaining to our constituents so they can help leverage the voice that we have.
That's great. No, thank you. I think that's fantastic. And that is something very important that we're talking about, not only at AAMA, but NLC and USCM as well. I've led a couple of those preemption resolutions, and I would look forward to leading more, hopefully working with our Congressional Black Caucus in particular from this position. So I thank you for highlighting that point, because again, those of us that are in conservative led states, we know about that. And if you don't know about it, then keep your eyes and ears open, because you're going to want to know about it before it happens to you. And I can certainly speak to that from my city here in Montgomery. But with that said, I know we've been on for a minute. I want to thank everyone for participating. I want to thank all of our staff. Phyllis, thank you for giving your insight into this orientation and this series. Hope all the mayors get something out of it when they are able to watch it on their own time. But just know these are things we're trying to do to bring to you to increase the value proposition of this association. We're always open to new ideas and new thoughts. We don't have all the answers. I know I don't. So, let us know what you're thinking so we can make sure that the association is working for you. And the same goes for our business council members. We want to make sure that we have a good relationship, one that really works back and forth. Let me know where I can be helpful as you all guide us as well. So let's continue to do the work. Thank you for all the support. Thank you for our member mayors. Stay strong and keep up the fight. And God bless you.